find himself getting passed by multiple cars, as I mentioned earlier on. So Mileham in a very precarious situation, but he often finds himself in these places. He doesn't qualify as well as he races.
Up front, they are getting with Lee Aberdeen and Luca Varani not very far apart at all here. But I just want to see how Alistair Haight deals with Marcello Kessler coming around the old hairpin.
I would say it's not the best decision they've ever made, just not having done that under the safety car, really.
Yeah, they're taking their pit stop strategies from Ferrari lately or something. What's going on?
In turn one, just too much gas on them, too much feet on the round pedal, and unfortunately he's dropped him all the way down the order. But Philip Hammer is out in front by an 8.91 seconds. Dan Michael is a wall there, sir. And definitely doesn't want to be hitting that earlier on as well.
Difficult, the understeer is in the dirty air through that final corner because it's such a long corner and you get dragged off into the grass very easily. He'll have the slipstream down in towards the chicane. Peterson was briefly alongside, but that slipstream has saved him and kept him in third.
Yeah, Varani now lost a little bit of time to Aberdeen, about half a second. Peterson is Pike's pushed Morton forward up ahead. He's got out of line. It's now Pike going to have a go at Werrell. Don't push him off. He's in the championship fight. Jack Werrell chasing down Carl Jacklin. Further down, Rob Williams and Chris Barnes.
Sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's come back into play. Exactly. Miller's still such trouble. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden Miller's back in play.
Moving on to the back end of Phil Jocelyn. So there's been a lot of movers and shakers in this first 2 laps here for race.
Absolutely serious racing league. Everybody's allowed to have fun. Yeah, and it's all about the entertainment. So I hope everybody is enjoying themselves out there in the chat. We know that Ron is been enjoying himself watching. And the Burger King machine's off into the grass a little bit there. Is that really bunching up now?
Does he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it. He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still such chopper. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry!
Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your Sunday evening of racing with the Tanso Racing Group. We're a bit pushed for time, so we're going to jump straight into things here at Brands Hatch Circuit in the United Kingdom. Down in Kent, sunny old Kent today, lovely weather. Jumping straight on board with James Bostock, but today in the booth I have with me Dean Biggles. Dean, how's it going?
Good to be back, of course. Brands Hatch, one of my favourite tracks, as you can currently just see at the moment James Bostock going straight into the fence. So we're definitely straight into the action immediately here, aren't we? Absolutely.
100%. Someone didn't give James the script, unfortunately. I must have left that in Discord somewhere and not passed that on to him. So, unfortunate, therefore, James going straight into the area so soon into the broadcast. But hopefully, we're going to see some good racing. Looks like a decent-sized grid out there today, and obviously these cars, we all know very well, are very close together when it comes to some side-by-side racing. So, with the power being fairly equal, and as we've gone over many times with the couple of different setups people can pick, there's a lot of opportunities here for overtakes. And we've seen Tanso Racing Group here once before as well. I believe that was the end of last season. We saw them at Brands Hatch as a bit of carnage at the start, but to be fair, once that had ironed out and people got in a lap or two, they started to settle and the racing really did amp itself up, and it's fantastic to see all these guys out there, because it looked like you had a load of F1 legends racing around the track. So hopefully we see some more of that action tonight. As you could see, people are really trying to push it out there already, and the times are already piling in. Harry Fox being your quickest runner of the session so far on a 1:37.5.
We're riding on board with Mark Brown at the moment, who's looking pretty good for their sector times as well too. He's got a couple of purpose sectors, purpose sector 1, purpose sector 4. Final sector now. Let's see if he's going to get himself right to the top of the timesheets. Michael Johnson goes up at a P2, and Mark Brown that we're riding on board with will go to, should come up there, and oh no, you could see there, yep, it's past the line. It must have been an off-track invalidation there.
I don't think that counted.
Yeah.
I think I saw in the final sector area a yellow sector there, so I wonder if there was a little off-track. What tends to be an off-track is that sharp left-hander, 90-degree left-hander as you come onto the back straight just before the final turn. So I reckon that's probably going to be a big corner to look out for in tonight's session. But, Biggles, I will give you the freedom today. Pick someone for us to do a hot lap.
Yes, please. Well, I mean, you're going to have to give us a hot lap. We might commit with Mark to see another lap here. Because I believe... Okay. Yeah, Mark Brown. I believe he'll have the pace, for sure. I just want to see if he can keep it on the track, obviously, within the limits, and then we'll go. So let's ride on board.
Yeah, I've got good faith in Mark. We've seen some good strength from him throughout the season so far. So many good races to come for Mr. Brown, as you can see him just coming around the back area and leading up to the left-hander just after this crest. Going around the right hand. There we go. So there it is, just ahead of him there. This left-hander, I think, is where he may have gotten off track before, which made his time not count, because people can go wide there very easily, as we had seen before. And that's certainly going to be the corner to look out for. So, we'll stick on board with Mark Brown for this lap, and watch him do a hot lap before we look at these cars getting their final couple of laps in of the qualifying session today before your Heat 1. So, coming flat out across the line down Paddock Hill Bend, which is notorious
P3
for the attitude change. That's a good time so far. Yeah. Can he improve? I think he slowed right down, actually.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to do another one in there or enough time. Just to let you know as well, too, this is a very, very interesting. Jogo's finally gets time on the board there in that P17. We still have a couple of drivers to get some times in. Well, a little bit better consecutive as John Joe Johnson. Mark Procher's not even out on track at the moment, so the BP Racing team looking to start probably plump last. Hello in the chat. As Alex says, good evening. You, of course, there, Callum, were second. I was first. We have Toxic and we have Milo out there as well. Doesn't look like anything's set there for. Where's Neil Rocks? Neil start. I don't think Neil's is out. There he is. If we can get that camera switched over there. There it is. Yeah, just to let you know, there's a... one of my friends runs a radio station here. And he's from the UK, here in Panama. He runs an English radio station. And when I was having a chat to him, because he's a Formula 1 fan, I was having a chat to him, and he was saying, oh, you know, that he's like, I used to, before he went to it was in the military, in the Air Force, he got offered to drive a Formula Ford around this track, like for they used to do a Formula 4 Formula Ford series, I think it was, before they had like F2, and then you had F1. And he got a test drive, and they offered him a drive, actually, but he couldn't take it because he was committed in the Air Force. But he was telling me about driving over this track and how much fun it is, and over the blind hill crests and everything like that. So it's a very great experience. So
there's a lot of blind turns around here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of blind turns, and there's a lot of tricky turns. You can see Daniel Wareham coming across the corner that I would like to just point out is probably going to be one of the most difficult ones out there. And I think we've got some kind of commentator's curse today, because it seems like everyone we jump on board with is like, oh no, the camera's on me. I'm going to return to pits now. So not been successful getting a hot lap with any of these guys. But
I got a few people yesterday, or with a stream yesterday, so perhaps that's what it is. Well, Zachary would say, he says it's not a commentator's curse, Biggles, it's a commentator's coincidence.
Okay, that's a polite way of putting it.
What it is, yes. Well, we'll see, but that's it for the qualifying session for sure, because they've got to park it in there. And so, yeah, over to you, and we can go over the grid.
Sounds good. So we've got Harry Fox starting your grid, in P1, and Scott McFall in P2, Mark Brown P3, Daniel Wareham P4. Michael Johnson, P5, John Sylvester, P6, Neil Rocks, P7, Sean Webber, P8, Richard Fluherty, P9, Alex Sylvester, rounding off your top 10 there, Marcus Law, P11, Shane Cotton, P12, and then carrying on your grid from P12, you have Ryan Dudley, P13, James Bostock, P14, Neil Kennedy, P15, Martin Lee, P16, 17th, we have Joe Glass, Scott Kostrick, and P18, Gary Linton, 19th, and Annie West, rounding off your top 20 with Sarah Cardesla in P21, and it's flicked back to the top. We'll just quickly scrape off the bottom few. We've got Dave Clark P22, Johnston P23, and Mark Proctor rounding off your pack in P24 as these cars line up on the grid, just waiting for the last few to pop in now. I think we're maybe missing one or two in there yet. James Bostock and Neil Kennedy, Scott McFall, Michael Johnson.
You can see that hill already, isn't it, from this camera angle, that they have to climb into turn one, which would be very, very interesting to see how these cars are going to pan their way up and down. That's what I love about this track rather than Silverstone, is the fact that the elevation changes so much that Silverstone doesn't really produce. If you had a choice, and that's one for the chat too, which is your favourite? It doesn't have to be between these two tracks, but your favourite UK track. There you go.
Oh, I already know my answer for that one, but we'll get on to that in a little while as we wait for these lights to get on and get these cars underway. Hopefully you have no jump starts today's session. There we go. I think we now have all cars on the grid. We do. The lights are at the top of your screen there. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They're all up. And they're all underway. Slow start from the front too, but it looks like the whole grid kind of got a bit of a slower start. As you can see, Mark Brown got a fantastic start actually from P3, moving straight up into P2 and looking to get on the inside line for the race lead, but it doesn't quite pull it off in those lime green wheels. They're coming down Paddock Hill Bend, and all cars coming through almost single file through there. I think there's a bit of nerves kicking in at the very start because no one wants to go off this early. And Mark Brown's taking the inside line to get ahead, and he's going to just hold that outside line now around Harry Fox, but that brings Scott McFall back into the action as they go side by side with Mark Brown. You can see some cars there 2 by 2 as they come through, just like they were doing on Noah's Ark, and coming around onto Pilgrim's Drop. As you can see, the long straight round to the back end of the course now, with all these cars all so tight together. There's not one gap in there that gets large until P19, which is Sarah Cardesla. So everyone's still nice and tight, nice and clean getaway for everyone so far. Commentator's curse maybe, but we will see as Dan Wareham just blocks off Neil Rocks from the inside line there. maintaining his P4 to Neil. As you can see there, he's pushing. There's a bit of smoke up ahead. It looks like Mark Brown's gone. Mark Brown looks to have gone. Yep, he's taken out someone else as well, unfortunately. Who was that? Is that Neil Rocks? Yeah, unfortunate between those two there. Race carries on though for these guys that are pushing through nice and steadily. James Bostock there up a few positions into P9. Great work from the GP2 team there.
We're side by side for the race lead now.
Oh, there we go, down the home straight. Yeah, that's incredible. But I have to admit, I quite like the livery of Scott McFalls. He has the inside line coming into Paddock Hill Bend. Harry Fox is going to try and carry that momentum round the outside and stick with him. Bit of door bashing there, but nothing too major. Both of them hold it very well. Coming out the exit of that corner now. Up into Druids as they come around this long right-hander. So far, so good from all these drivers, and I have to admit, some of these guys really do look good going side by side as if on cue. These guys definitely got the script. Dudley going side by side there with John Sylvester. As you can see, they're going to maintain that, going all the way around to Pilgrim Straight and bouncing around the corner. Look at the speed that these guys are holding through there. Fantastic stuff from these racers here today. And slightly touch on the grass there on the straight. That's not going to do any good for your momentum, but these guys are going to keep it side by side still. It's going to be edging on for like half a lap side by side now, so very tense between these two. Ryan Dudley really wanting to get that position on John Sylvester. He gets his nose ahead, but not for very long, because John Sylvester's going to hold the inside line and take that position straight back, and you can hear a bit of bumper to bumper there in the background, and Dudley has got the outside line still, and John Sylvester clearly gets in front there. As you can see, tucks his nose in, does Ryan Dudley, right behind John Sylvester, trying to catch that draft. As you can see, it's just a draft train all behind. Contact there between Michael Johnson and Sean Webber, both of them spinning out and into the barrier. Sean Webber with a very nice blue and lime green livery there. I have to admit, I quite like that, and they're going to both hopefully rejoin.
Just as I switched on to him
nice
as well.
Safely.
But look at Mark. Now, Mark Proctor. You got to remember, this is the Markster started pretty much plump last on this one, didn't he? And he's 12 positions gained right now in P12, just like that. And that car's parked right on the exit of pit road there too. Thought that was the pace car there for a second, as they had to zoom on by. But let's see if Mark can make his way up to 13. Lucky for some. Just go back to the real race start real quick. There's so much action just to see what there was a little bit of a moment at the back. And this was that one that caused a little bit of contact at the start of the race. And I think most people managed to get through, so that's very, very lucky considering we knew something was going to happen, didn't we, into turn one and Brands Hatch, and that's just the way it goes. Further up, but we do have a challenge again for the lead.
It's like you mentioned at the start, you've got that hill there, but also one thing to note, it's not just a straightforward hill, it's a hill that's on heavy camber as well, and unfortunately, look at that, there were two teammates there taking each other out at the start of the race, so very unfortunate for those two and for the team in general for the points. Not going to be very good for them, but we will hope that they have a good recovery race now for the rest of this, and remember there is a reverse grid for your feature race, so not all is lost tonight. As you can see, the get up and go livery for Scott McFall there in the lead, 1.5 tenths ahead of Harry Fox that we are on board with at the moment as they come round the final corner down the home straight to come across the start finish line to wrap up your first 5 minutes of this 20-minute Heat 1 race. You can see Harry Fox really wants the inside line, not going to get it, so he's going to be forced to the outside. Goes corner to corner with Scott McFall, but obviously doesn't have the momentum or power to get around him there. Scott McFall having all four wheels off the track there, trying to keep it out the gravel, and just about does that. They still bumper to bumper. These guys are not going to let up on each other, and definitely not going to make today easy at all for one another. And you can see, just looking at your timing tower there, Mark Proctor being the car to watch at the minute, up 12 positions. Fantastic from him.
Another one. He's still stuck here at the moment, but you can see that he's got a couple of cars here tucked in. Oh, he's behind this squabble of cars, so once he gets past one, he's going to get past a couple more. He's got time on his side, no doubt, because we're 5 minutes into this 20-minute race. But I thought it was a little bit longer, isn't it? But it's not. And he's further back at the moment. Here's Gaza, Gary, and Marcus Law. I call him Gaza, that's what we do in Australia. It's Gary.
Ooh.
Yeah, who's just completely lifted off there? There's Neil.
Yeah, that was a bit close from, I think it was the Whisk livery, sorry, just behind the Neil Kennedy there, which is Marcus Law. We've got two wheels up on the inside of the corner there on the grass and managed to pull it around in a drift. So spectacular going around that corner. As you can see, the league owner, John Johnston, repping the Tanso Racing Group livery. Looks very fantastic on this lovely sunshine day at Brands Hatch, going around in a pretty successful P19 so far, so not bad from Mr. Johnston. And his, I would argue, his rival, James Bostock, up in P6 at the minute. And we jump back with Dan Wareham. What happened here? Looks like a bit of an off track.
Oh, yeah. Does he save it? Oh, yes, he does. So
well
a
held.
very lucky save, and that should keep him still in a P3 position. It could have been a lot worse than that, but it just means that the gap that he has to the lead is now increased. But they're battling it out separately. Here's Scotty, and this is a great little battle for your P10 position. And as you go, Vorum, of course, with Scotty's livery. You don't want to
Scotty never fails to deliver.
Vroom, but you don't want to hear a crash bang if you're talking about cartoon shenanigans.
Scotty, he never fails to deliver with nice looking livery. I believe he had a cartoon one at the start of the season when you joined me in the booth, Biggles,
yes.
But it was slightly different to that one, so it's nice to see a different one, but still looks absolutely flawless as you've got a car going off there, 2 wheels off track. But who is that? Martin Lee in the plain black and lime green livery, managing to keep momentum though. As you can see, he's keeping Mark Proctor in his rearview mirror for now and keeping with this pack of 4. These guys really tight, as you can see there, the room on the back, and you want these cars to be giving it all the rooms around here as quick as possible, because I have to admit the pack is starting to split up. You've got 2 halves to the race at the moment by the looks of things, and they kind of split up between sort of P13, P14, and there's a big off track there from Martin Lee. Not too sure what happened there. I think he just went a bit too much momentum, and once it goes off track, unfortunately with these cars, the grass just sucks you in and keeps you planted there. So had to really fight that to get back on track. But you can see Richard Flaherty trying to give James Bostock a bit of a hard time and start knocking James Bostock down the pecking order a little bit, who's up 8 positions, can I remind you, and Ryan Dudley also up 8 positions. Ryan Dudley posting a green time, his quickest time so far, 1:38. Very well done from Ryan Dudley there. You see Mark Proctor's also done his quickest time, 1:39. These cars just sound absolutely fantastic when we get them close camera angles. It's fantastic to listen to as they all come rushing by in their small groups. The only car to note in the top 8 that are down any positions is Harry Fox, who's down from P1 to P2. He's got before obviously taking the lead early doors and managing to hold it so far. But Richard Flaherty trying to keep the pressure on in this pack, and they are starting to group together because they're all slightly holding each other up. You know, when you're behind other cars like this, sometimes dirty air becomes a factor, but there's a bit of space between Scott Kostrick and Neil Rocks, and I imagine that will close up because we know that Scott Kostrick has some pace. We've seen that before this season, so I imagine he will be able to close that gap slightly. But it also plays into a factor of Biggles, like when you're a bit lower down the table, that you don't really want to be pushing too hard because you know you're going to be starting pole next race with that reverse grid.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You've got to build a bit of strategy on that one. Sometimes it's better just to maintain yourself in a good position for the next race rather than just trying to make your way up through. But at the moment, I would say push, 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 because you've still got 10 minutes halfway through the race. But after the next 5 minutes or so, you've got to kind of then go, well, where am I going to think for the next race? Where am I going to look at panning out for that one? But then again, they are racer drivers, and they do probably the opposite of what the usual logical thing is to do, because the adrenaline's pumping through their veins. Of course, the engine is revving through the limit, and so all they're thinking about is pass, 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 overtake, and go faster and faster and faster.
Richard Flaherty's just been pegged down 1 position, down into P9, which was his starting position. Neil Rocks is now only 1 position down from his starting. So not bad from those two there.
I'm just trying to see that incident that happened a little bit earlier. What was it between...
Mark Brown?
Was it Mark Brown? Yes, I think that's what it was. I just wanted to see that
yes.
Because that was... if we get the chopper camera, can't see anything here at the moment, so maybe the blimp cam, that was it. That was... we just caught the end of that, unfortunately. Yeah, this is where Mark Brown went off track. That was a very, very important, remember, because that was the battle for P3 at the time. And really tried to save it. In fact, could have almost saved it, but just put it straight into the side of the whisk machine there. but they both managed to get back onto the track.
Yeah, it looks like he lost it a bit on his own, and then had obviously another car right up his rear end almost instantly, and that kind of pegged him around, and he went straight into a Whisk livery car. As we've just seen from Mark Proctor there, also going into a Whisk livery car. These Whisk boys out there today have not had a good session at all, taking each other out early doors, and then having a couple of incidents later on. And yeah, it was Mark Proctor that had that little collision there. But I believe damage is turned off for these cars because the drivers find it obviously more enjoyable because they're not out of the race once they have contact. Because reminder for everyone watching today.
Look at this
Wow,
battle for the lead
close.
at the moment. He was absolutely bump drafting, and at that point, getting to a pushing and realizing in the corner, I'm going to have to lift off at the moment, otherwise you can see it. But he is giving it. Scotty's giving it absolutely everything, and Harry's giving everything he can to defend this position at the moment. Great racing course. We've seen this all season long here at the Tanso Racing Series. 5 and 6 that we are in. This is round 5. We've got 6 coming up, of course, straight after this one with the reverse grid in Brands Hatch. Once again, my favourite UK track. We didn't get to your favourite UK track, actually, real quick there, Callum.
Yeah, my favourite UK track isn't actually on many season calendars at all, but it was where I was today, actually, and that's Snetterton Race Circuit. Fantastic circuit. Not as entertaining altitude differences as Brands Hatch, but it is a very fun track to ride around. So,
were you racing, or were you just at the track?
No, I was spectating the BRSCC today. So, yeah, watching that. But it was a fantastic day out. Really, really, really good, and got some lovely videos from there. But the racing, I have to admit, was very, very good there, and very similar to what we're seeing in Tanso so far. Everything's very close. I have to admit, Sean Webber is really representing with that livery. I really do like that. Very simple, yet very effective, and he's definitely going to be all over the mirrors of John Johnston.
Oh yeah, but he's got they're kind of blocking at the moment, so he's got to find a way through. Now they're not teammates. Do this. Now you got if-gap car in the inside, but you got to put a lot of faith, aren't you, into the driver to the right-hand side, not to kind of push you off. Oof.
What's interesting here is that car is not actually a car in the fight. That is Alex Sylvester, which is a blue flag car. Because I was just looking at the time standings, and I thought that was a bit odd. How you've got a car fighting, and between Sean Webber and John Johnston, there isn't a car. So I was like, that car's invisible. And then I realised it's Alex Sylvester in the black, red, and white car there. So that car wasn't actually in the fight, just happened to be in the way at the time. So, a bit unfortunate placing for him, and it sounds like someone's losing tyre grip around that top car. I think there was a bit of an incident with the two cars behind. I'm not too sure what happened there.
It looks
Neil
like
Kennedy?
I think Ryan's come off. Ryan Dudley's come off here somewhere, and Shane and Neil might have been involved in this. Where is Shane and Neil? Are they? This is crucial, remember, because Ryan was in the P5 position at this point. Now, should be coming up soon. This is just a little. There's not. Unless it's just counting that as an off track, but. Yeah,
possibly.
so
I know it does count out as an off track.
He's still in P8, but I think this is what you might have just heard.
Yeah, it definitely heard some tyre squealing. Could have been. Yeah, there it is.
Boom. That's what you heard as we were watching that battle just ahead of them. You know, good ears. I think mine's down to a little bit too low and I can't hear it that well, but you certainly hear that. You know, well, I'm not going to do that sound effect too well, but everybody knows the tyre squealing sound.
Unfortunate there for Neil, but so far for the drivers that are still on track and plodding around nicely, you can see the cars starting to spread out a bit more now, but they've still got some tight fights on there. As you can see, P1 and P2 going at it, P4 and P5. We can see here Ryan Dudley in P5 chasing John Sylvester, and John Sylvester really hugging the inside line, doesn't want to give Ryan Dudley a sniff at trying to regain that position at all. As best as he can, he's going to keep him in his rearview mirrors till the end of the race, you'd hope now, because there's only 3 or 4 minutes to go. And I tell you what, the roar I have through my speakers at the minute with these cars is incredible as they go round up towards Pilgrim's Drop again, which is along this straight. Here we go down the slight drop, and they're going side by side around the back of the track. John Sylvester did have his nose ahead, and they look to be getting even more side by side as the straight goes on. Ryan Dudley slowly pulling pulling speed out of nowhere, and as you can see there, he's got his nose ahead around the outside. What a move by Ryan Dudley. Manages to get that move off nice and clean, but he's still going to be on the outside line. Can he hold that momentum?
Are we going to see side by side
manage it
throughout the whole track? It is possible, isn't it, in Brands Hatch? I mean, you can, I think.
It is very possible.
I've seen it in Interlagos and stuff like that, like side by side throughout the whole track, 2 cars. I have to move the camera.
This will be the trickiest spot to hold side by side. The sharp left-hander, because you get flung up wide very easily there, so it's very easy to misjudge. And I think coming off camber into the corner will send you down Spaghetti Junction. I think coming out of the corner, so it's not something you want to be doing really. But I think apart from that corner, it's more than possible. As we have an off track there for Scott McFall, but he manages to keep his momentum going. Has a little look at the inside line, doesn't go to take it though. Very safe racing from these two. And Harry Fox, who I believe last time I was on the broadcast was also up there in the podium sitters, and Harry's having a fantastic race so far, leading, but not by much. He's got a bit of pressure on. He's going to have pressure on, I reckon, till the end of the race. Fingers crossed we have no commentators' curses or anything from those two, because this is going to be really tight right up until the checker flag, I reckon, as they come roaring past the camera there, down the back straight, and yeah, you can really see how close they are getting. They're not giving each other an inch of the track.
Yeah, look at that from the blimp camera, so we can just see. Gives you a really indication of how close they are with the bumpers to bumper action.
Good thing with these cars is they are sometimes forgiven depending on what type, what pressure you put on the car in front. So you can have a little taps here and there, but as soon as the cars are under braking, any taps, they get sent spinning. It's like watching a puck at ice hockey. They just goes flying off the track. So hopefully there's no bumper to bumper there. As you can see, the Whiskins sponsor on the wing. Looking just over that is Scott bearing down on Harry Fox's rear end, trying to chase him. And
it's the Whiskey Racing team from the Whiskey Rabbit of Harry Fox. He's a fox, not a rabbit, but yeah, for the Whiskers Racing team. I've got to throw some puns out, have some fun, of course. It's Sunday, it's motor racing, and what a weekend that we've had, haven't we? Just so much, of course, in the esports world, we've had so much on the JP Broadcasting Network. Then we've had the Monaco GP. IndyCar was still cracking exciting just before we went live. It was should have been probably resumed for the final couple of laps on that one. So no spoilers alert, please, and then get a chance to see the end of that. And of course, then you also have some, I think the NASCAR coming up as well too for the Coca-Cola series. It's just, and of course, this Tanso Racing Group. So,
and you got more to look forward to. Close racing tomorrow with the Clio Cup coming to JPB Broadcasting Channel tomorrow as well.
Wow,
so looking forward to,
excellent.
Yep, looking forward to those racing around, because they will be really close to around Virginia, I believe, tomorrow. Virginia International.
So why is Mark going into the pit road? Now, I know he had a little bit of a moment there before, but you said this is the damage turned off. But let's have a look. So Mark's had a moment here, and he's had a disagreement with the fence, probably. Mark told you to buy that fence dinner. Obviously, they've had an argument, and I don't know who's going to get the kids in that one. And the divorce. No, he was okay. So you know, they sorted that out. That little disagreement with the car and the track this time around was the disagreement.
Now, I'm trying to remember
why would he be boxing?
What the reverse grid size is, because if it is 22 reverse grid, he's on pole position, so I can see why he's done
Last lap, Barney's waving that flag, and this is it. So everything, sorry to cut you off there, because everything at the moment, Scotty has to give it to try to beat Harry, and he's trying to give everything at the moment. So here we go. Do not look away. Hold on tight. Your seat upright and your table stoked away, because this is going to come down to the wire here. And he has eventually got past it, did he? Got past Scotty on that one. Harry, I mean, after all that work Harry's been trying to defend him. And just like that, there's the overtake. And we'll quickly show it again. It did get a little argy-bargy on that one, but it's a full send at this point, isn't it? You got to do it. You got to risk it. You got to go for it. Scotty did. Back to the live pitches. We are on the final lap. I think
both these guys...
Yeah.
Both these guys know that reverse grid is definitely out the window for these two. They're going to be starting nearer the back, so you want to go for every single point you can get, and if that means you've got to do a bit of door-to-door to get P1, then so be it, because I'd be doing exactly the same as these cars come across for their final lap as well. Richard Fluity trying to hold off James Bostock, teammate of Sarah Cardesla, in
There it is.
the GP2
I was going to
livery
ask
there.
you to pronounce that. We couldn't do it last week. Of course, Michael was filling in for you because I know you had personal issues or something you couldn't attend. And Michael was trying to get through it. I think he got it once correctly. I just call him Hussein, of course, because I don't want to completely butcher his surname. But you always pronounce it perfectly there, Callum. I think that's about it for these two. Now, Ryan, because we're going to keep an eye on that track map up there where that one is, which will be about now. Scotty's about to cross the line and take race 1.
Interesting situation. Harry Fox has pulled into the pit. So is he going to... He's lost the position to Dan Wareham. Dan Wareham comes across in your P2 spot. And Harry Fox finishes in P3 in the pit lane when he could have had P2. So I'm not quite sure on the decision there. Ryan Dudley and John Sylvester having a fantastic race. Obviously, those two were battling out for 4th and 5th all race long. So hopefully those two enjoy themselves because that's fantastic. Watching up here in the booth. James Bostock comes across in P6. And we'll just, before I go through the entire grid, we'll just wait for the rest of the cars to come through and we'll give you the full rundown on your Heat 1 results. As we can see, according to the track map, we have P20 at the minute, the last car out on track, I believe, that is coming around into the final couple of turns. P21 is coming around at the back of this pack of 3. So... P20 man will be the last one across the line, which I believe is Dave Clark, who's up 2 positions from his starting place. Alex Sylvester, blue flag car, taking the checker flag there as well, 1 lap down, I believe. And just wait for Dave Clark coming around the final turn here as these cars, some of them go around for their cool down lap, others go straight into the pit for a quick sip of tea and a quick pee before back out into the car.
Tea and biscuits.
Tea and crumpets.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, we'll take crumpets. We'll take crumpets. I think crumpets are better on a day like today, with the weather as it is.
Going to show the results for you to go through, please. Should pop up in a second. There it is.
There we go. So, finishing your race winner for Heat 1 is Scott McFall in P1 there. Dan Wareham, P2. Ryan Dudley finishing in the pits. Bit of an unusual end there for Ryan Dudley, but finishing the pits in P3. Could have had P2, remember. John Sylvester, P4. James Bostock, P5. Scott Kostrick, P6. Joe Glass, P7. Neil Rocks, P8. Marcus Law, P9. Mark Proctor rounding off your top 10. Shane Cotton, P11. Michael Johnson, P12. Neil Kennedy, P13. Martin Lee, P14. Sean Webber, P15. Richard Fluherty, P16. Harry Fox, P17. 18th is Hussein Sarakar Desler. 19th is Andy West. 20th, Dave Clark. 21st, Alex Sylvester. John Johnston, P22. Mark Brown, P23. And not too sure who was P24 there. Didn't quite get the name.
Didn't show, I don't think. Let's go back to that one for a second. But I don't think it showed.
I don't think
Gary
they made it
Linton.
out. It's Gary Linton.
There it is.
Okay, 9 laps down. I don't think Gary made it out on track, unfortunately. So hopefully we'll see Gary for race 2, your feature race, your final race of the evening. But, Biggles, thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. It was a crack of a race, especially when you have to flick through a million cameras there to try to keep all the different action that's going on between the different battles that were occurring. Great patience, you'd have to say, towards the end for getting the job done on Harry. To take that race win, of course, from Harry, and we're not quite sure what happened for who was the driver that pulled into the pit road as well on the to lose that 3rd position. But so everybody out there, if you enjoyed that, so grab yourself a snack or a drink or whatever like that, because we have a little bit of a warm up session at the moment, and then make your way back for the second round. We'll just do a little short break. Video, of course, and you come back soon.
Does he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it.
He's going to toss it. Never got it.
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now, though, for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still start trouble. He's not a second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry!
Okay, we're back currently at the moment, so we get ready for our Heat 2. The Heat 1 is done and dusted. What a cracker of a race that is. I can't show you the replays of that, unfortunately. As I load into the warm-up session, it does kind of remove that. But, of course, you can go back and rewatch some of that on the YouTube channel. That's where you're broadcasting this live. Myself, Mr. Dean Biggles, and Callum Mileham. G'day again.
Well, what a fantastic race one. We've just seen some intense stuff there from all over the grid, and looking forward to seeing what these guys can bring for the feature race. And I think these cars maybe like pushing the boundaries a bit more, starting to begin to push their rivals a bit more as well, seeing as this is obviously the final race of the evening at Brands Hatch. So they want to put everything they've got out on track and leave it out on track for the evening. So we may see some more intensive racing coming up next. And I have to admit, race one was tense enough. So what's going to happen next, I'm not too sure. But it's not going to be... I don't think it's going to be pretty for some people's mirrors, because we're going to definitely have some pressurising situations from these drivers, because we've got a lot of quick guys out there today. And I mean, you saw from Ryan Dudley and Sylvester, they're battling the whole race through for P4 and 5. Just incredible work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be super fun. We should get the grid for you in a second, because we've only got about 10 seconds left of our warm-up session. None of the drivers elected to go out for a warm-up. I think maybe one of the drivers, I think, did one lap. One thing I do want to talk about, as I love about this track, is real quick, if we can get the pictures to show it. Unfortunately, it kind of won't. But if you look at the pit lane, pit road, or the pit boxes is the word I was looking for, they've all got that old-school brick look around them, you know, like really old UK-esque, I mean, buildings and that sort of stuff that have been around. But we do have the grid, so I'll stop confabbling about that one. If you'd like to go through the reverse grid order.
Yep, so remember, we do have a reverse grid. So we've got Sean Webber starting P1, Martin Lee P2, Neil Kennedy P3, Michael Johnson P4, Shane Cotton P5, Mark Proctor P6, Marcus Law P7, Neil Rocks P8, Joe Glass P9, Scott Kostrick P10, James Bostock P11, John Sylvester rounding off your top 12 there. As you can see, they're starting to line up on the grid. Ryan Dudley P13, Daniel Warren P14, Scott McFall P15, Richard Fluherty 16th, 17th, Harry Fox, Hussein Sarakardesla P18, Andy West 19th, David Clark P20, Alex Sylvester P21, John Johnston P22, Mark Brown P23, and Gary Linton in P24. So Mark Brown, after that interesting decision to pull off into the pits, has put himself right at the back of the pack for this race. Maybe he's doing a last to first challenge and want to see how far he can get. So fingers crossed for Mark Brown at the back of the grid there. Looks like we don't have our P3 car, but all the lights are up, and we'll just wait till they get underway. There we go. Sean Weather leads the pack off the line, and what a start from Michael Johnson. Look at him ploughing straight through outside line into Paddock Hill Bend, gets the lead head and shoulders above Sean Webber, but they're side by side, and Sean Webber's going to have the inside line and manages to get through, uses that momentum to his advantage and gets back past Michael Johnson. Great start though from Johnson there, and he's up 2 positions already, and just a cracking start off the line. It looks like Scott Kostrick is facing the wrong way, and so there's minimal contact between them two. And I think that was, please don't tell me it was who I thought it was. It wasn't, no. I thought it was Mark Brown gone round early doors again, but it's not. It looks like Alex Sylvester was the one that went round, unfortunately, there. But Dave Clark making a move up the inside of Harry Fox. And Sean Webber manages to maintain the lead for now, half a second ahead of Michael Johnson.
Sorry, the camera's flipping all over the place, trying to catch all the action. And this is the action at the moment there between Martin Lee and Marcus Law. It's 121. 2 positions lost there for Martin Lee. So at the moment, Marcus is going to try and make it 3 positions lost for the driver. Not quite yet. There's a big spider on my wall right next to me, but that's okay. I don't mind a big spider as long as it eats all the bugs and things. Just looks a bit scary.
There we go, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here first. We do not clean the commentary booth at Brands Hatch.
Yes.
We leave it as we left it. So there's spiders there from last season. And the spiders are out to haunt James Bostock because he's gone off track. As soon as he heard the word spider, he flew off looking for the spider webs, trying to clean up, and unfortunately he greets the wall instead. Thanks to the lovely vegetation, we haven't quite got the best viewpoint of Richard Fluty's situation there, but you can see the smoke. Blimp can gives us a good show, and I think there was a bit of argy-bargy from a couple of cars there that sent Richard Fluty packing, and unfortunately on for an early holiday down to the back of the grid. But Martin Lee now, not too sure what happened
he's come back
to
on. Yeah, he's come back.
Martin.
He's gone off track a little bit, and that's what's dropped him back here. And let's have a look. It's probably just a little off track excursion. He's not going around. There it is. So he keeps it pointing straight out of the gravel, out of the sand, and there it is. So just loses that position. But you've got to be pretty happy with that one. It's for a good save to continue the fight.
Yeah, managing to stay side by side with one of the Whisk cars there, and looks like he ended up behind both of them. And as you can see, he's now back up side by side with them, back up with Neil Rocks at the minute, Martin Lee. So fantastic from him so far. Great stuff to maintain that momentum and keep the push on as Neil Rocks manages to maintain the position with the Don't Panic spoiler. Very iconic for those guys there. And you can see. Yeah, this is going to be really tense now as Scott is trying to push up the positions to Mark Proctor. Mark Proctor, again, looking very consistent, up within top 10 positions, and Scott's really knocking on the door. He definitely doesn't have the momentum to get past him on this straight, but he's going to look to get a better exit out of the next corner to try and get Mark Proctor. And well, whether he can get the inside line or not, he's opted for the outside line. He's going to try and go the long way around. I'm not too sure if this is going to work out well for him, but he's proven me wrong already so far tonight, and he's easily done it. Look, put me right in my place, handed Mark Proctor his eviction notice, and moved him straight out of P7, sorry, and moved up there. Fantastic from him. Dan Wareham trying to maintain the inside line as we got a car going wide there. That's Mark Brown with the lime green wheels. It's hard to miss him on the track. So look out for the lime green wheels, trying to go last to first, I imagine.
Three right. Are we going three here? All right.
Three abreast.
Not going to work.
Into the back straight.
Maybe it will work. Love it. I love it.
Well done. Well done. Lovely and clean. That's what we like to see. Going around Pilgrim's Drop there, I believe, on the back straight of things. Dan Wareham keeping the pack nice and tight there, keeping us very entertained with these three right behind him. So that's got to be a bit of pressure for him, considering the next car behind Mr. Wareham now is Mark Brown, and that's not a car you want to see in your mirrors. Mark Brown is always on a mission to get as far out the grid as he possibly can, and he's going to be hunting him down big time, and well, he's got plenty of time to do it because
oh, look at that. That's an easy one. That's almost
hold the inside line. Dan possibly for the defense. He's going to have enough to do at the minute, but Mark Brown, as you can see, has the momentum.
Little wiggle, just to let you know. He's parked
shaking that booty,
yeah,
trying to distract Mark.
He has. He's parked it in the right place, but Mark's a little bit too clever for this one. It says, okay, you got to give me the inside line on the last corner. I'll take that one any day of the week. Remember, it also turns into this corner too to the right.
One thing to remember Mark Brown
too deep into the corner. Now he's got to try to keep it straight, and that is that's definitely a commentating, I'll say, coincidence from me because we were on board with Mark, and well, just like that,
I think Dan Wareham's wiggle and twerking of the car put Mark Brown off there and kind of distracted him as he headed into Paddock Hill Bend there. So one thing I was about to say is as Mark Brown managed to get up to P10 there, one thing to remember is we still have just under 20 minutes of this race, because not last week, the week before, myself and Biggles requested that we have a 25-minute race, and we do have that for this feature.
That's great, because there's not enough. It just seems to be not enough time, isn't it? Because there's so much racing action. I'm sorry, I apologise about missing that one out there, Izzy. You were asking that question, sorry, because we've got all these buttons to press, and I usually like to definitely engage in the chat. This racing is always so action-packed, I never get a chance to look. But You said if we get a chance to speak to Ryan Dudley after. Well, I guess if you want to request that, if Ryan's happy with it, I have no problems here, Callum. We can pull Ryan in for a chat. Fans
yeah,
out
Ryan
there
can
asking?
100% join us.
Absolutely.
But it's all down to the drivers. If they wish to talk to us, they've been told where they have to go, so we can drag them in from a certain point. But if they're not around in any of our talking booths, then we're not able to drag them in, unfortunately. So it'll be down to whether Ryan fancies it or is up for it or not. If he is, we will certainly get him in after the race for you.
If you
so
know
we'll
him
make
or
sure
whatever,
we
if
do
you
that.
do personally know him, DM him and say, Ryan, if I want you on for a chat. But just let us know, of course. We're here to please the fans, and we're here to cover these fantastic motor racing drivers as well. So battles all on track here, because thankfully, once again, we've got an extended time here, so we did have that last week as well, I believe, but this is the first time you'll now experience it. By popular demand from the commentators, I think it is, isn't it, that we get the 25 minutes?
Well, one thing I will notice while we were talking just then is Scott McFall has McFallen up the grid, up into P5, managing to get past Shane Cotton just after Paddock Hill Bend there, and we see James Bostock leading this pack of 4 with a Fox chasing on the back of this group.
What does
like
the
a
Fox
bunch
say?
of rabbits trying to catch up. I do know that song went viral very quickly,
Yes.
and I'm so glad it's
also
not
died
around
as bad
anymore.
as quickly as it went viral. So great
All
racing.
for good reasons. All for good
You know,
reasons.
it's going to be in your head for the rest of the day now, or the race.
Yeah, I'm not going to have to go listen to it to get it out of my head before I sleep tonight, because if not, I'm going to have nightmares. So that'll be one to hopefully forget soon. But Mark Brown up 11 positions so far, and as you can see there, he's pushing on to the back of John Sylvester. Cars very similar between those two races, similar colour schemes.
There you go.
So you can see the
run over
the
a
whisk
Don't
boys
run
are
over my
going
GoPro,
quickly.
please. Don't run over my GoPro camera. It cost me some money. Put this trackside. There you go.
These the Whisk teammates are always very close in both races. Been great between those guys. Very well balanced team, all around the same skill level.
I think
talking of skill,
they're switching a route, but I want to keep an eye on this battle. Ooh, that was Martin, wasn't it? Yeah, coming out of the corner. Let's go aboard Martin, and as we're going to ride us, he's going to see these 2 cars up the road. There, 2 cars, of course, Mark Brown and John Sylvester. And as you're going to be looking, Mark Sickles. If Gap Car sees opportunity, but what do you reckon? Also to see if they tangle, and once again, Mark Brown trying to slice his way back up through the field, isn't he? But after making that little bit of an error.
well, Martin Lee done very well to keep his car tight there, just out of Paddock Hill Bend. Looked like a spider that had just crawled through ink, wheels going everywhere up the track, but he managed to maintain his momentum and keep going. And we can see Mark Brown there in the rear view of the skull mask wearing John Sylvester. So coming round the back half of the track, on board with Joe Glass, and I believe that's his teammate Andy West.
So it looks as left through there. So Andy and Joel say, okay, you go, you give it a run up the road there, because we've got a couple of guys behind us that we need to keep behind us. So working together as teammates.
Now, what you've just mentioned there is actually an important thing I would like to just touch on, is when you're in these races. Now, it's not like F1 where you've got, you know, teams in the paddock and teams in the pit lane, you know, giving you team orders. So when you're a driver in this situation, how important are these team, I would say messages, but we don't know if these drivers are actually talking to each other or not. They may not be at all and have no contact and just assume. So how important it must be for these guys to make sure they get everything bang on correct to get a good result. As you can see, it was a good switch over from Joe Glass and Andy West. But how crucial is it, Biggles, as like being a teammate in these races, especially for the team standings, is it, to let the quicker driver go and get some kind of plan before the race?
I guess it just depends if you're like how are you as a racing driver. If you're a Max Verstappen that's not really going to care too much about your teammate winning races, or if you are basically sometimes a very good support driver. And it also comes down to pace and tracks too. Like sometimes you go, look, clearly you're a bit quicker, mate. And if you are communicating, you'd say, all right, well, I'll let you through, and you give it a shot up the road there, because we are once again battling the other teams around us, so we want to maximise the points that we can get in our team. We'll bring you all that information next week too, on that crucial teams championship as we get further and further into this great season. So that's will be when it will become very, very important, no doubt. In that inner team pros and AM championships too, and of course they've got the pros and AM teams too. So you've got a pro and you've got an AM. In
one thing I will mention that will cheer up a lot of people that are watching with us right now, and will cheer up my co-commentator, but we'll get onto that in a second as Alex Sylvester goes round and unfortunately sends Richard Fluity off to mow the grass there. But looks like those two are managing to keep going for now, and everything seems hunky-dory between those two. Michael Johnson holding off the lead to Sean Webber at the minute, nice and tight up in P1. But one thing I will touch on just before Sean Webber makes any moves, so sir, please hold on while I talk about this. But remember, next week is Mount Panorama. We have the mountain to climb, so make sure you are there for next week, and I'm sure that will put some smiles on the faces of the people watching today, and I know for a fact Biggles will have a smile as big as Panama right now. So
yeah, I'm going to be firing up that barbecue, my friend. I'm going to be firing up that barbie. I'm going to throw some room meat on there, and all of the drivers with 24 currently on the grid. Harry has retired from this session after a P2 in the previous one, but for sure, yep, roux all around for everybody. And that's if the mountain doesn't, the mountain conquers. If you can either conquer the mountain or the mountain conquers you, that's Mount Panorama for you.
Now, I am looking forward to that, especially if we have 23, 24 cars, you know, around the same pack size as this. If we have that going around there, incredible scenes. We know how tight things are on the first couple of laps with these guys, so it'd be great to see as James Bostock shows us how tight things can be with Joe Glass at the minute, fighting for P14, and comes out victorious with that battle in P14 at the minute. He's got a bit of a gap to Gary Linton, but never, ever going to write off Mr. Bostock. I'm sure he can close that gap if he really gets his head down and goes for it. Mark Proctor also trying to get his head down around the outside there of Shane Cotton. Manages to do it quite nicely, and it looks like Ryan Dudley's also going to try and come around. As you can see, his shadow's just on the outside there. There he is, side by side, around the sharp left-hander, and you can see the two Whisk teammates trying to attack Shane Cotton. Shane Cotton's now in a whisk sandwich. No, sorry, yes. Not a whisk sandwich. He's made a whisk sandwich. He is the filling.
Oh, that's right.
He's the whisk filling in the middle, and yeah, not a good position for him at the moment with both Ryan Dudley and Dan Wareham either side.
It's like the episode, I think, of Family Guy. It's Wisp, cool whip, cool whip, cool whip. I can't
know
do
the exact one you're on about.
I think that everybody there. As we see a couple of little moments there. So Martin Lee has just said he's gone off track, and he's the driver that we're looking at right now. Unfortunately, Hussein has had a crash back in a P22, but Hussein, we're going to save you. We're not going to show that one for now, because there's still so much action. There was an overtake just before as well too. I wanted to show.
Oh, bit of an off track there for Martin Lee. But unfortunate for him, but he's going to keep the momentum going. But I imagine there will be.
He's not in the sandwich anymore, my friend. He's elected to jump out of the sandwich and stuck behind the other two machines.
Just like peanut butter, he slipped out between the bread, and he's fallen out onto the floor behind both of the teammates of Daniel Wareham and Ryan Dudley.
This is an overtake because look at that. Who's that? That's John Johnson, and just gets past to Hussein that had that moment actually before. So, of course, you'll take that one any day of the week. It's getting heated up at the top of the timesheets at the moment here. Look at this. It's got a four-way party. Scott's and Marcus has joined it. Just lurking in the background's Neil Rock, so this is going to be good. This is why we add an extra 5 minutes into these 25-minute race, because now it's got 10 minutes to go, and anybody could take this one in the top four, even the top five, I would say. You got to think about this one too, because look at that. Scott McFall, 13 positions gained, and you know he's hunting. He smells blood in the water, and Michael Johnson is the blood that he's smelling to try to take the race victory and gain 14 positions for the feature race.
Now, I'm not too sure what the tactic is behind it, but I've just spotted an interesting diagram on the front of Michael Johnson's car. He's put a blue and yellow flag on the front of his car. I'm not 100% sure. Just underneath the front fender there, front grille, whatever you like to call it, front air vent, there's a blue and yellow flag. So I think a bit of tactics there for the cars ahead, you know, try and put them off That's a good idea. I quite like that one. Put a flag on your car, make them worry. I like that as they come down the back straight. Look how close these are. Look at your timing table. Scott McFall's actually taken the lead. He's got his nose ahead. And Johnson's gone down to P2, but he's got the inside line. He's going to manage to hold it down the home straight. But we know Scott holds really good momentum around outside lines, and he's done it already on Paddock Hill Bend. He's going to do it again. Bit of door bashing. They don't want to let each other go here. Johnson's going to hold the inside line. What's going to happen between these two? Scott is going to keep the momentum going around the outside. More than clear now. You can fit a bus between them two at the minute. Manages to get almost half a second clear already. And
a double-decker British bus? I don't know.
I think we're going to go for a big red London double-decker bus between those two. And you can see them all drifting a bit wide there. Marcus Law, is he going to be able to take advantage and go up the inside of Sean Webber? Sean Webber, a bit of paint damage you can see on the left-hand side of the car there. A bit of door bashing, I reckon, for Sean. But Sean's also had a very good night tonight. Very good indeed. But we can't take anything away from Scott McFall, who I mentioned earlier has McFallen up the grid. He was in P5 earlier when I mentioned that. He's now in P1, leading your race. Almost half a second clear. The Whisk boys are trying to put the attack on for the podium spots.
Oh, he's flashing as well too. That's going to be a little difficult to obviously get an overtaken. That the blinking is just a slight little internet issue that you have with iRacing, and as you know, it's very, very difficult, isn't it, for these drivers? Can be like, okay, so if I'm going to try to set it here and all of a sudden he's blinking back in position, ooh, it's hard. But you know, these two drivers are really, really going to try to bring it, aren't they, the Whisk machines? And it's going to be really showing that pressure to try to hold them off as much as possible. I can't show his camera too much because every time it flashes, it kicks out something else. But Scotty's down the road now, yeah, so Michael's got to give everything to keep it at bay.
It's going to be difficult, but Sean Webber, the South African Superman, I imagine is going to try and hold on to his P3 to round off your podium spots up there. Alex Sylvester tucked in just behind James Bostock, who's going to want to get past him as soon as possible, because we are coming up to the final 5 minutes of the race, which, even though we have got an extra 5 minutes of this race, it still seems like it's going so quickly. So quickly, but yeah, it's not enough. We're going to have to go for 30 next week, and by the end of the season, maybe we'll hit an hour mark. But as these cars come across the line,
drivers are like, please no. I mean, they are essentially doing an hour with the 2 heats. That's why you notice that during the 5-minute cool down, that nobody really goes out and track and does anymore, because they're just like saving all that energy for the feature races coming up.
Oh, is that Martin Lee off track there? Yeah. Black and green. Yeah, Martin Lee, bit of an off track, unfortunately, out the bottom of Paddock Hill Bend. Going to lose the position there to Neil Kennedy, as he is down 16 positions there, Martin Lee, at the minute. But on the brighter side of things, Mark Brown is up 14 positions. I believe trying to go for a last to first, but he's got a bit of work to do in this last 5 minutes if he wants to make that happen. And he's up 14 positions so far, though, so it's a fantastic racing from him so far. John Sylvester managing to lock on to P11, but he wants to get up into the top 10.
He does. Marnik's out there in the chat saying, come on, John. Well, I know John knows he needs to get the job done and do this. There's a little off-track excursion up the road there that looks like from Mark.
And that's Mark Brown, yeah.
So here we
Mark
go.
Brown's lost some momentum. Outside line, he's going to block the outside and swerve back in.
Oh.
Whisk car gets 2 wheels up there, trying to do a bit of a wheelie, realises he's not in the Superbike Championship anymore, and John Sylvester is going to try and put the attack on Shane Cotton, who realised that he was in a car and not a bike at the time of doing a wheelie, and got the inside line. John Sylvester's through. Yep, Shane Cotton still hasn't realised he's on 4 wheels rather than 2, and unfortunately loses all 4 of them. Off onto the grass, Martin Lee trying to go around the outside now of, I believe that was Neil Kennedy there in the green Fox livery. Yes, that was down the home straight. As you can see, Bostock getting very close with Sylvester, still trying to defend his position between those two at the moment. And this pack of 4 is getting really close together. I believe this is a similar pack to what we saw in race 1 as well. So these guys are all within close skill range of each other. And Gary Linton, who wasn't out in race 1, I've just noticed, is in P12, up 12 positions. So fantastic race for Gary Linton there. So he'll be kicking himself if he didn't get out of race 1 with that performance. But Sean Webber, the South African Superman, has gone off track and has both of the Whisk cars right up on his tail. And he's going to have to do a lot of defending, because look at those two trying to creep in, and it's daunting seeing one car in your mirror, but when you see two the same,
Yes.
yeah, that's not something you want to see.
You're like, am I seeing double? And I believe you are seeing double at the moment. So he's going to still continue to hold on. He's probably like, can we bring back that 20 minutes, please? Because now I have to hold them off for another 4 minutes and change. And this is still a very heated up battle. Back here with Alex, James up the road there. Joe Glass is just lurking in the background, hunting their prey here in the forest. Brands Hatch. Oh, we have to get those trees cut down, mate, so they're in the block of the camera. Yes. Of course we won't do that. We're green thumbs here.
Scott McFall is up 14 positions, and Mark Brown are up 14 positions as well. So technically, driver of the day for the feature race especially is split between two racers at the minute. But even Gary Linton's getting in for a shot there, up 12 positions. So if anything happens to either Scott McFall or Mark Brown, Gary Linton will be the best car on track in terms of overtakes. So it's going very well for those three at the moment, though. As we're still on board with this pack, as you can see James Bostock trying to defend the inside line there against Alex Sylvester, and managing to do so by the looks of things so far. So it's going to be tense between these guys running up to the end. As you can see, we're only got 2.5 minutes left. Not long to go at all, and James Bostock is going to be sweating in his seat right now, because he knows he's got to put everything he can on the line to keep Alex Sylvester behind him, because Alex has some pace and he's trying to unleash that pace, but Bostock will not let him, and he'll put anything means necessary on the line. You can see the little Angry Bird's face there on the back of Bostock's car. Not very happy. Not very happy that he's got another red car up the rear end of his 166, the GP2 racing team.
You know it's got his name on the back there and the number plate, so you can't miss him. But it's more really the side-by-side action. Oh, so Alex has to worry about everybody around. He's got Joe Glass. He's got Richard just a little bit behind there. He wants to get past James. Very, very great battling here. They all know that battling for, 12, 13, 14, whatever, over in a championship, every single point makes a difference. And I'm not quite sure if that was netcode or contact, but yeah, definitely some action here, as maybe the blimp camera can catch a little bit more of this.
I think Alex Sylvester just got a bit off camber, and the car sort of threw back on itself, which kind of sent him a bit wide. I don't think there's any contact, so there were no cars around him at the time. Bit unfortunate for Alex, but he's coming back straight onto Richard Flutie, though, and wants to remind Richard Flutie the position's not his, and Bostock's having to defend a lot up top as well. So just because Alex Sylvester's dropped off doesn't mean Joe Glass is going to stop, and Joe Glass is going to look to get past as soon as possible with just under a minute on the clock left. This is getting tight now, and I imagine soon we'll see the track map, and soon you'll see how close these guys really are, and we'll be able to figure out when your leader is coming around for a final lap. That's okay.
You
Track map is now
I forgot about that. Sorry, it's so.
I have to admit, so did I.
Yeah.
So did I. With everything that's going on track, it's hard to keep our track of these things, and now we have it up there. We can see that the leader's now coming around the final turn, so he will be on his final lap, the white flag laps this time round, and these guys are not letting up. Last lap of the race coming up, and they're going side by side into many corners still, and I think there's a bit of an off track from someone behind there, possibly Scott. I'm not too sure who that was, but nothing too major, we hope, because we're going to stick with this battle, because things are going to be tense right up until the finish line, and we will try and stick with these guys as much as we possibly can before your leader comes around to take the race lead. But remember, there's also a tight battle from P2 to P5.
It's exactly what you're going to say. Read my mind. Great commentators think alike, because Sean Webber still managing to hold off the duo behind him of Marcus Law and Neil Rocks. I think he may be able to do that, but we will definitely be switching over very, very soon. As those...
There we go, they come around onto their last lap now. The Fox car's battling at it as well. Bostock, can he hold it round into Paddock Hill? He can, manages to keep that. Sylvester's trying to get on the inside, doesn't quite get the move done, but he's going to have the momentum and have the inside line leading up into turn 2. And is he going to take advantage of that? He is. He's going to go side by side, and he's squeezing, nipping and tucking and breathing in as much as he possibly can, and manages to pull off the position nice and easily. And he's already looking at getting on the back of Bostock there. And as we can see, we do have our leader coming into the second to last corner now on the tight left-hander. So things are getting really close to the end now for Tanso Racing Group this Sunday evening it's going to be a tense finish for these guys. As you can see, your leader is... Yep, your leader's now coming around with the know-how livery. Get up and go. Scott McFall to take the race to victory, finishing in P1, 5 seconds clear of Michael Johnson in the end. The sheer pace of Scott tonight has been fantastic to see. You can see the cars coming across, flashing their line. Look how close that was between those guys. Couple attempts splitting those three. Fantastic, and they're all in sync, flashing their lights. I feel like a model walking down a catwalk at the minute with all the cameras flashing at me. It feels wonderful as they come across the line. I've never felt better. Oh, trust me, I've put on many, as we've seen the fantastic racing here tonight. Got me on the edge of my seat all night from the people out on track.
Wait, you're sitting down?
Today.
I'm standing the whole... No, of course I had to sit. That's absolutely
I couldn't stand up. My legs would be shaking. I'll be trying to kick the brake and kick the accelerator and things like that when it's not even there when I'm watching these guys, because things get that tense. You know, you feel like you're in the moment with them. It's a great watch indeed. But we'll just wait for the last few to get across the line here. We're just waiting for P20 to P22 on board with Scott McFall, your race winner for feature race for your race number 2 of the evening, and final one at Brands Hatch for this season. You can see we're getting a bit of Toko Drift action, and well held, and we're going to go around the track backwards, I believe. So
who is
bit of a different view for Brands Hatch. Is that Wareham? Was that Dan Wareham?
I think it was
possibly?
Dan there. They've just retired from the session at the moment, and I think everybody has almost crossed the line. I'm just waiting for Andy.
Yeah. Johnston now coming across the line. There we go. Yeah. That rounds off your grid there with the league owner P20.
Yeah, John didn't have a very good moment. There was a lot of little messages coming up there for a couple of incidents with John, so it's very, very unfortunate for him. But it will show us time now that we can go over those feature race results there. Callum, it should pop up there in a second. Yep.
There we go. We have it up on our display here at the minute. In the booth, we have Scott McFall taking the victory for feature race, your heat number 2. Michael Johnson finishing in P2. Sean Webber, the Superman of South Africa, finishing P3. Marcus Law, P4. Neil Rocks, P5. Ryan Dudley, P6. Daniel Wareham, P7. Mark Proctor, P8. Mark Brown, P9. Starting from the back of the grid, remember, at the start. Fantastic race from him. John Sylvester running off your top 10. Shane Cotton, P11. Gary Linton, P12. James Bostock, P13. Joe Glass, P14. Richard Fluidty, P15. Alex Sylvester, P16. Neil Kennedy, P17. Dave Clark, P18. 1 minute behind the leader there. And we'll just look at the last few. There we go. Andy West, P19. Martin Lee, P20. Hussein Sarah Cardezza, P21. John Johnston rounding off your P22 finishers. And the 2 cars that unfortunately didn't get to finish there, I don't believe, was Scott Kostrick and Harry Fox. So that rounds off your grid for the feature race. And Biggles, once again, what did we just see? I mean, that was wonderful. I think that was really tense, and I have to admit, I've got no complaints this week.
No, that was great. Yeah, I think the extra 5 minutes obviously do make it a little bit more spicy, because you could see towards the end there we had so many cars so close together. You could have probably added another 20 minutes, and that still be at the same scenario. But of course, we have to hope the drivers do get a little bit of a breather and a little bit of a break after about an hour of racing. But of course, we're going to have a discussion. We'll also see out there, because I know Ezzy was asking if we can get Ryan. We'll see if Ryan is available. But we do have, I believe, Michael Johnson.
We do indeed. So we'll get him up here in the booth. Let me just grab him real quick. So we now have Michael Johnson join us in the booth, who finished P2 in your feature race just then. Michael, how's it going?
A little sweaty right now.
I'm not surprised after the result just then. Pretty tense throughout the race, really, and we had to do a lot of defending there, I noticed, as well. So, I mean, how did that feel, seeing McFall in your mirrors for, the entirety of the race, really?
He came up so quick that I really didn't have time to let the fear set in. So it was kind of like, oh, that's not Sean, because I was just catching a glimpse in my mirror of who was there, of a car being there, and I just assumed it was Sean. Every time Sean got close to me, because I'm in Texas and he's in South Africa, we have really difficult issues. His car bounces up, flies through the air, jumps side to side. So we've raced a lot together, so we know each other, and we just kind of kept it cool. And then, yeah, when McFall came up, I'm like, oh, that's not Sean. What am I going to do now? And I just didn't realize the pace he had.
Yeah, it was, to be fair, that was an incredible pace from everyone at the top there, including yourself. So it was overall a good result for you, especially in terms of the championship standings. That's really going to put some points on the board for you. But one thing, obviously, you have touched on there that I would like to just bring up and sort of question you about, actually. You say you were from Texas. Have you had much experience in this league or these cars before, or is this like a first time?
Well, I've raced with several of the people here. I sort of jumped in the previous season for a couple of races, but really didn't have time to commit to it, and decided season 2 I would commit a bit more. And VIR, I had a stellar. It wasn't a stellar race, but it was a stellar makeup because I would. Well, you saw it. We got big crashes and then worked our way back through. I think I fell back to 25th or something at VIR and worked my way back up to like 13th or 12th in the first race. And then second race, similar kind of thing happened. So I was just glad that didn't happen to me in this race for both races. I did have a bit of an incident in the first one, which again, that was me and Sean. And it was a connection issue. We have so much latency between us. It's very hard to race that close.
Yeah, that is one of the biggest struggles, really. Obviously, being on a sim racing community is where people are in the world is going to be the biggest struggle. But overall, both of you racing, obviously in the UK around Brands Hatch, which is not an easy circuit at all for those that haven't raced here before or those that aren't used to the track at all. And we're getting some great photos here of you going side by side with McFall. And how did you find McFall on the Paddock Hill bend? Because we noticed he liked to take the outside line and managed to hold the momentum very well around there. So did you struggle defending against that, or were you just kind of uncertain on what to expect of it? What were your thoughts there?
I hadn't raced against him or even in practice against him before, so I didn't know what to expect. I mean, my day job is driving race cars, so I will always give space. I will always make sure the other person knows I'm there. What they do with that knowledge is up to them. So when I saw that he had a really good line going around there, I thought I might try it. But Sean was too close, and I think, the battle Sean was having, I was actually trying to give him a hand and move out of the way, move offline to where he was to give him a little bit of a draft so he could pull away from, I think it was Shane Cotton or maybe Martin, or no, I forgot who it was.
Sean Webber?
Marcus.
Oh, sorry.
I think it was Marcus Law that was back there too.
Yes.
Really dicing it up well. I've raced this track before in real life, and I know it, sort of. It's been a few years. Well, let me amend that. It's been a few decades, but it hasn't changed much. I'm very confident in it, and I love it. It is one of my favorite tracks in the UK.
And the final question from me, you mentioned how your daily job is racing cars. So if you don't mind me asking, what cars do you race in on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I just had neck surgery, so right now nothing. So until that heals, I've got another couple of months before that heals. But I race GT3, GT4 touring cars with the two of the different big series in the United States. There's SRO America, which is the same as SRO in Europe and SRO Asia. It's just the one they do here in North America. And then I also race in IMSA.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. We'll have to get a link to your profile or something like that and share it with the community so that we can follow you, of course.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, more followers, the better. That helps me sell more more sponsorships.
It's expensive, exactly, motorsports. So yeah, any possible way to help you get some. Just sporting. I see yourself sporting the old Ayrton Senna, Michael Schumacher, classic helmet there with the Benetton. Any
Weil ich Deutscher bin. Ich komme aus Deutschland. I'm German
Oh, okay.
originally.
All right.
I know my name doesn't look like it or sound like it, but yeah, he has been one of those drivers who has always impressed me, and I've analyzed his data and his videos as much as I can, and tried as much as possible to follow a lot of the theories he has and test them and see if they work for me. And so far, all of them have. But I watch him. I watch Ayrton Senna. I watch Tom Christensen. I mean, all the really big names in Formula One and in prototypes and GT racing. Some of them are my friends. You have people like Andy Lally, Ryan DL. We all know each other, and we steal from each other. We steal. Oh, look at the line he did. Let me try that one. And you just play around and learn from each other. So yeah, I really do idolize Michael Schumacher. He's for me the Rekordmeister, the record champion. I'm not sure how to translate that one properly, but I mean, yeah, when you look at it, sure, you've got Lewis, who is absolutely amazing. He's won more, he's gotten more poles, sure, but I think if they were in the same time, I mean, there was a little overlap, but I think if they were kind of in that same era, so either 20 years earlier, 20 years later, it would have been a little different. I think they would have had some very good scraps. I think the two of them would have played very well together.
Yeah, and just so, excellent. No, that's fantastic. And just, we do have a Michael Johnson in the league. I mean, John Johnson, sorry, is there any relationship in that? Just a coincidence?
That's just a coincidence,
Okay.
yeah. I'd like to say he's my brother from another mother, but actually don't know him. I've raced around him, but I don't know him.
Must be a similar age too, right? You blokes are a little older than some of the young guns in town.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I'm actually in my mid-50s, so yeah, it's.
Yeah, I believe he is as well.
I think he's around the same age.
Yeah. Hey, it goes to show you, mate, even with these young ones in town that are like, even 12, 13, that I've seen some of them like 7 KI rating, they're absolutely quick. You're here with a 2.7 KI rating, which is pretty fantastic. You said like a lot of time you've actually spent on the racing rig, most of it in real. That just means that your real racing experience paying off into the virtual world. Which is something
I think it does pay off a good bit. The biggest issue I have is I get caught up, like I'll race a GR86 Cup or the butt kicker race, and someone will just go plowing through a corner. I was around 3,500 for a while and kind of covered there, but then someone and a couple of those races decided, no, you don't need to be 3,500. You should be 2,500. And I've been trying to claw my way back up there over the past 13 weeks.
iRacing, yeah, numbers. It's something there's something else. It's a different ball game. But at the end of the day, never really. It's just a rough average, I'd say. It doesn't really give you an indication of the pace because once again,
I know some 1,200 people who were blazing fast and brilliant racers. So while it gives you a good indication, it's not a hard and fast rule.
And when you did say you were you're a race driver, but you weren't obviously you weren't racing today. I thought instantly you're not in IndyCar 500 series or the IndyCar series at the moment because you would be there.
No, I've only got a C-class license. I can only race GTs.
Okay, but I will definitely look out for that one, and I'll see about getting your social media posted for next week or some of that, so we once again can follow you and obviously help with your sponsorship and stuff like that, and also heal up, mate, as best as you can, because you know neck pain is something you get in a motor racing car that people don't understand. The physical pain. That's on the last question I wanted to ask you. How physically tough is it when you're racing those GT3s and stuff like that? Like you have to do a lot of workouts. Is it how draining in your body?
There is a lot of neck work. Sounds like I'm saying neck work, where we are using isometric exercises or tension bands and things like that to be able to strengthen the muscles in the neck. When my surgeon cut into my neck to go and do the surgery, it's called an ACDF. It's an anterior cervical discectomy and fusion. So I had C3 through 7 fused. And he said when he went in there that my muscles were so reactive, they were fighting him. And he had a lot of trouble. The surgery was supposed to be 4 hours, ended up taking 6 because he just had a really hard time working around the muscles in there. They're so reactive from racing.
Wow. I didn't know all that was involved, but yeah, well, hopefully, obviously, that the recovery, that they got it all sorted out, and you get your recovery, and you get back into that car as soon as possible, which means we're going to miss you, unfortunately, I guess, for a lot of more esports racing.
Yeah, I'll be here for a few more months. Those Sunday races are reserved for real life, but those are only about one a month through the regular season, so I could be for the other three. And would love to, because I got to tell you, I had a blast. This was so much fun racing with this group and these people, and especially people I know like Sean and Daniel, the people I race with a lot in a different group. So yeah, I really do love being able to get on the sim and just hone my craft, work on my defense, work on my attack. It's all the same stuff. There's just no G-force.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll work on that in the future, of course, with racing rigs. You can spend a lot of money. Any shout-outs you'd like to say before we let you go there, Michael?
Oh, of course. Well, some of my sponsors have come over. So there's T-Mobile for Business. There's Sugar Studios LA. There's Truffle Shuffle. Truffle Shuffle is fantastic. Unfortunately, I think most of the viewers are going to be UK, so they won't be able to see much of the Truffle Shuffle stuff. But they could watch it and buy the ingredients online. So Truffle Shuffle SF, like San Francisco.com. Great, fantastic Michelin star level cooking classes. And Fix Vodka. So those are the ones I want to say a huge shout out to.
You're going to have to say thank you very much. You have to throw them on your car, because we're looking at your car right now, obviously in slow motion. As I see the T-Mobile logo on there, so we'll have to
did
keep
Fix
it
not make it on there this time?
we keep it up. What? And just real curious, I think you're actually asking this one, weren't you there, Callum? That flag that's on the front of your car. Callum did point this out, didn't he, Callum?
Yeah.
The passing flag? Yeah, that's a little joke.
That's what it is? The passing flag? Okay.
Yeah, it's the passing flag on the front of the car.
Oh, all right. That's excellent. Thank you very much, Michael. It's been a pleasure to watch you racing around here, and obviously it'll be a pleasure to continue to see you race until you get back into the real car that we'll watch you race in the future as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Callum, I'm not quite sure if we managed to get out there, because we know, as you was asking, as you are still there in the chat there, but I don't think we've managed to get Ryan or anybody else at the moment, Callum.
No, it doesn't look like they are. Yeah, it doesn't look like they are around after that long race there. So I think that will probably end up wrapping it up for our interviews for the night there, unfortunately. But hopefully we will see some of the other guys next week as well. But fantastic to hear that we've got racers from all different kinds of backgrounds and all different experience levels. You've got some people that have never driven a car in their life and they come on here for the first time, and you've got others, as you've just heard there from Mr. Johnson, who have a lot of experience in GT world in real life racing. So great to see all the different experience levels, and seeing all these guys on the same track at once is fantastic. So really have a good feeling when broadcasting over these guys, and it's been an absolute pleasure today, as always, with me and Biggles in the booth. Have you got any final words you wish to say to the lovely people out there watching today?
Stay safe and keep racing. Good night, everybody.